Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to discuss my big three. As some of you may know, my name is Sam and I'm going to be going on the Appalachian Trail of 2023 southbound with my husband. We'll be starting sometime in June. We haven't picked a date specifically yet, but probably the first or second week. Kind of depends on the weather and when Katahdin's open and when I can book a campsite. So the first item in my big three is my tent. Jeff and I will be taking the triplex, the Z-Pack triplex tent. It's a 3-person tent. Although we are only 2 people, we prefer the extra space in the triplex. I think that's necessary to have that extra space so you can have your gear in with you, particularly if it's raining and it's going to be wet on the AT. I think that's a general consensus for everyone. This particular tent weighs 21.6 ounces, so in the general scheme of things, this is the lightest tent we could find for the 2 of us, particularly for tall people. That seems to be a big problem we had found in trying to find a 3-person tent. We originally wanted a freestanding tent. This is not a freestanding tent. This is a trekking pole tent. You do need 2 trekking poles to set this up. Z-Packs does offer extra poles you can buy in case you don't want to have a trekking pole style, and you'll get the poles with it, but we have the trekking poles. We're going to be using them, so it seems kind of silly to go that route. It is a single wall tent, which means there's only 1 layer. There's no rain fly that attaches to it, so when you put it up, that's it, which does mean there can be greater condensation inside. It needs greater airflow, but it has plenty of that if set up correctly. It has 2 doors, rainbow style zippers, which is great for at night. You each have your own vestibule, which is quite large for your shoes or your gear or whatever have you. And when I need to get out at night, I don't have to climb over Jeff to go to the bathroom, which is probably more frequent than he's going to, which very, very handy. But it also allows good cross breeze in there to help keep the condensation down. If there is a lot of condensation, we can wipe it off with a cloth, but if condensation happens, it tends to roll down, and there is an area of mesh, and that's how it's designed, so that it will roll down and outside. If it's not set up properly, that moisture will roll in, or if you're touching the edges of the tent, which is why it's important to set it up correctly and be able to fit in it accurately. It does have a bathtub size of length, 7.5 feet is what it says. It really fits a 6.2 foot man just enough. I don't think I'd want to be any taller. Perhaps taller people can say otherwise. Maybe they go a little more diagonally, but Jeff is 6'2". It fits him well as me. I'm smaller, so I can kind of turn a bit in case we do need to angle a bit, but we do need to make sure we don't push them against the walls, because any condensation that occurs is going to come down and inside, and it'll get on any of the gear or sleeping bags, and you definitely don't want that. So as I mentioned, it is a Dyneema tent. The Dyneema fabric is what makes it expensive and such a lightweight material. It is, I'm going to read this because I'm not going to get it right. The fibers are made from ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, or UHMWPE. So this fabric was originally designed for things in like bulletproof vests and helmets and whatnot, for things that needed good high tensile strengths, because it has a very high breaking point. It is quite a strong material. It's highly abrasive resistant. It's UV resistant, water resistant. It does really good in the rain. I live here on the east coast of Canada, so we get a lot of rain. It's been through many rainstorms already and has performed excellent. Again, if it's set up properly, it performs excellent. If it's not, you'll find a puddle, but it's easy to clean up. What's really great about it is when it does get wet, you just kind of shake it to dry. It doesn't hold that moisture in, so you're not carrying water weight like you would with a nylon tent. So that is a huge bonus, which is another reason why we wanted this tent as opposed to, say, a tiger wall tent or some of the other tents out there. As mentioned, it is a trekking pole tent, so it does need the 2 trekking poles. You've got the 2 doors, 2 vestibules. It needs at least minimum 8 stakes up to 12 stakes. We usually have 10 stakes so that we can get a good tautness on the walls to keep the roof high enough so that when you sit up, you're not brushing up against it. It goes up super easy. It's once you get the hang of it, it takes just a few minutes to put up, and it's nice because if you are putting it up in the rain, unlike a fly tent, which when the fly goes up, it's that mesh space there, so the tent gets wet and then you got to dry it and put after you put the fly on. This one, it just goes straight up and there is no mesh, so it should be dry inside. Not necessarily, you might have to wipe it out too. I mean, all tents get dirty, especially with through hiking. So that's pretty much it. It's a pretty lightweight tent. It doesn't require a footprint. You can put one on underneath it, but remember, if you do put one on, it should be smaller than the edges of the tent. Otherwise, it's not really performing its function very well. And yeah, it's a great little investment, and I won't be carrying this lovely thing. Jeff will be. I'll be carrying extra items because since there's 2 of us, we might as well share the load. So that is our tent, the Z-Pack triplex tent, 3-person tent. So the next on my list is my backpack, which is the Arc Haul 50 liter. This comes in at a weight of 20.8 ounces. This is the small version. I'm a small person, so I measured and this was the size that fit me. And I also have the small waistband because again, I measured and that was the size that fit me. It's made out of the 200 Ultra material, which it was new last year. It's slightly thicker this year, or well, slightly thicker than the Arc Blast, which is what their previous one was. So it's a little more abrasive resistant, which is great. That way, hopefully it will last the whole hike. And my abuse to it, I'm not necessarily the kindest of people on my gear, and Jeff certainly is not. I'll be surprised if anything makes it through on him, but we'll find out that later. So the Arc Haul is known for this arcing system here. It's got these carbon stays, aluminum stays. I'll have to look specifically. I'm not sure what they're made out of. That you can adjust down to create that arc, how much you want it, how little you want it, as well as it has this space here on this. It's got a mesh, so you can create a space on your back to create some airflow so you don't have that backpack sitting and sweating right up against your back, which is really nice to have that airflow. Even on a cold and rainy day, you don't need extra sweat and moisture back there. It has, I don't know if you can see that, load lifters to adjust the weight on your back, whether you want it close or not. It has 3/8 of an inch foam shoulder pads, which I find are more than adequate enough to provide the weight distribution on. I mean, most of it's carried in your hips anyway, but it feels comfortable on my shoulders. In retrospect, I could have gotten the J straps, which are a little narrower. I'm quite a narrow person. I thought I'd be okay with this, and it does fit okay. It just fits a little more wide on my shoulders. I would have preferred a little bit more in, but that's neither here nor there. They're still quite comfortable and it fits just fine. It has, again, the same on the waist. You can buy an extra lumbar pad in here if necessary. I haven't found I needed one yet. I'm not that bony. I may be tiny, but I have extra padding down there. So I didn't buy the extra one. What I did get though is, unfortunately, the Z-Packs, although a wonderful pack, is devoid of extra pockets and whatnot. It is just one big sack, so you stuff everything in. If you want extra pockets, and most people do, I like to have my snacks readily available, so I have these extra side bags that I got, and they're quite large. They hold, I have an iPhone 13, which I put in there, so it fits quite well along with my snacks and extra things that I need. I will probably get a shoulder strap for my phone specifically, so it's not tucked in here and makes it a little easier to get to. These are easy to operate with one hand, which is nice because sometimes you want to get at your snacks and you've got your trekking poles, you've got lots of things going on. It's just a much easier technique to do so. What else? It has quite a large mesh pocket on the outside, which comprises the rest of the 50 liters. so that you can put things in that you don't mind getting wet and or are drying. I find everything pretty much fits inside my sack. I don't put much out here. Maybe some rain gear, my cook system, my toilet bag, that type of thing. It also has some cordage at the bottom for extra things. I put my Gossamer Gear 1/8 of an inch pad down here, which I use for my sit pad, my yoga mat underneath my sleeping system. So that's quite handy. It has, this bag particularly has a roll down top. You can get ones, you just buy them. And if you want to change them out later on, it's also not an issue, but you can get ones that go down like this if you're not keen on the ones that just close, top closure. I'm fine with it either way. I haven't had water get in or anything like that. As well, it has a top strap which slips over so you can strap things down like raincoats or whatever have you. We were actually putting our tent up here, or Jeff was, I should say, because he has the same pack in a 60 liter, slightly larger, but he's a larger person, so his stuff is just bigger. He will be planning on picking up the V-strap, which just, as the name suggests, it's a V-strap. It just holds things better, particularly tents, which with the dynamic fabric can slide off fairly easy. So that is not the best strap for holding larger items. So if you were to have a bare canister and whatnot, definitely get the V-strap. This won't hold it, but it's good for smaller items. And again, like I said, easy to change out if you change your mind and didn't get it in the first place. I think that's about it. It's quite a comfortable backpack for me. Just make sure you do measure it. That is my pack. So the final item of my big three is my sleep system. So my sleep system consists of a sleeping bag, not a quilt. I know a lot of people love their quilts. Maybe I will one too, but today I'm loving my sleeping bag and my sleeping pad. I have an inflatable sleeping pad, so that's what I use right now. We'll start with my sleeping bag. This is the Western Mountaineering Versalite sleeping bag. It is a 10-degree Fahrenheit comfort rated sleeping bag. It's a mummy style bag. It's got massive baffling. You can cinch down. It comes with the hood, as most mummy bags do. I am a very cold sleeper, so this is what I'm starting with. When it comes to getting into the summer, I'll decide whether or not I do want to switch out. This might be overkill, but at the same time I can just open it up and then I never have to buy another sleeping bag. But this sleeping bag does weigh 32 ounces, so it is a bit on the heavy side, but it gives me peace of mind. So right now, this is what I'm planning to take. Come summer, like I said, we'll decide if I want to go to something lighter. But at high altitudes, the temperature can still drop. It can still get unpredictable. So as far as I'm planning right now is just to keep this particular sleeping bag. It is very warm. It has served me very well. It has lots of great features. It has 850 plus goose down. It's been treated goose down, so it sheds a light amount of water on it. So if it does get a bit wet, it's not going to soak in and destroy the down. So I won't be getting really cold. And also being the treated down helps to manage the moisture really well. It has these great zipper baffles or snag resistant strips on the zipper baffle so that when you have to open it up and close it, particularly in the middle of the night, the zipper doesn't snag on you. It has never snagged on me, which I've had many sleeping bags prior to this, and that was always one of the worst things, particularly in the middle of the night when you're fumbling to try to pee and you can't get out of your own sleeping bag. I guess that's why people really like the quilts. They don't have to worry about fumbling. But I do really like this bag. It is super duper warm for me. It has these great horizontal baffles on it, which means I can move the down from the back to the front to create a bigger volume on my front as opposed to the back, which isn't going to provide any heat source because I would be compressing the down if it were back there anyway, which is the premise of the quilts. So yes, I'm carrying that extra weight, but I have the ability to move it around to where I need to be in case I get too cold. So that is my sleeping bag. Lastly, with part of my sleep system, I have the Rapide SL sleeping pad from Big Agnes. It is a 4.2 value R-value sleeping pad. This is the petite size, so it's only 17 ounces, as well as it's only the 20-inch wide. I'm a narrow person, so that fits me fine, but they do make a much longer and wider sleeping pad, but it does come with higher weight penalties. But I do like this pad a lot because it's extremely comfortable. It has 4.25 inch walls on the sides, each side, so it cradles you, and 3.25 or 3.5 in the middle. So you have lots of cushioning there for the side sleeper, which I am, and rotisserie sleeper. So it keeps me in place much better than some of the other sleeping pads do. I've owned the X-Therm from Thermarest, a 6.9 R value, and it's a wonderful and very comfortable sleeping bag. I highly recommend it, particularly if you're cold sleeping. But the problem with I find with that, it does, yes, it sounds like a bag of chips, but that's not a huge issue for me. It might be for your sleeping partner, but it also is quite a slippery surface, so I found myself sliding off quite a bit, and that was it's pretty uncomfortable when you have quite a slippery sleeping bag. On top of it, it's not a good combo. There are ways to mitigate that, like putting silicone dots and that type of thing on your pad, but it wasn't the right pad for me. I think this one will be fine and comfortable, but if you want to see another video on how I cold sleep, my whole cold sleep system, watch this video up here next, and that will give you some ideas and some extra tips as well on how to stay really warm if you are a cold sleeper, because I certainly am. But thank you for watching. This was my big 3, and I hope to see you, I hope that you'll follow us for our Appalachian Trail Southbound 2023. We're starting in June. Please do give this a like if you found this valuable, or if you just enjoyed it, and subscribe, and you can follow us. All right, thank you very much.